Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Bill Hale. He serves as TxDOT's chief engineer. Bill began his career with TxDOT in 1983, and he has served previously as district engineer for the Abilene and Dallas districts. As chief engineer, his responsibilities include management of TxDOT's engineering and safety and district operations. We're glad to have Bill here today to talk about the impact of distracted driving in our state and how TxDOT and others are working to reduce the problem. Please join me in welcoming Bill Hale.
Thank y'all for having me here and having this important event. It's very important for what we do. Distracted driving is very much a problem that we experience. I experienced an event just recently coming out of San Marcos, coming northbound. A car in front of me was driving an excursion. Suddenly a vehicle comes across the lane. Fortunately, the driver had been looking and saw it. He moved to the right, but was hit in the back and rolled. And several times he moved off. I got out of the car. The car that hit him was coming right at me and lost both of his wheels, but the car, that excursion, had turned about 3 times. Fortunately, the driver was in position. He had his seatbelt on. He stayed in the car, and we helped pull the person out. But that was one of those examples you see. It had happened so quickly. He was about 400 yards ahead of me, and suddenly he moved, and you see the car start hitting like it exploded as it went through there. So it was obviously the person that had weaved across the road had got into that. So it's very important. And it hit me at the time how quickly that can happen. The National Traffic Safety Administration describes distracted driving as a national epidemic. It's a widespread problem that now accounts for roughly 10% of our fatalities. In the United States, every year, anything that takes the driver's focus and attention away from the driving is considered a distraction. That could be eating, grooming, discipline your kids, or changing the music track on the iTunes, or anything else that causes the change of your mind, gets you distracted from what you're doing and takes your eyes off the road. One of the most dangerous forms of distraction is using the cell phone in a vehicle. Dangers in the cell phone include several things, but as you'll hear one of our speakers later this morning, your brains can only handle one thing at a time. A driver who's using his cell phone or talking on the phone as he's driving down the road can't be completely engaged with what he's doing and happening around him. And research has found that reaction time doubles when drivers read or send text. A big concern now is the drivers aren't just using the phones in the vehicle to talk and text. A recent AT&T survey found that 4 in 10 smartphone users also engage in social media apps when behind the wheel, and 3 in 10 admit to surfing the internet. Can't imagine that. Even taking selfies and shooting videos when driving is on the rise. Like many states, TxDOT has seen a steady increase in crashes caused by distracted drivers in the last several years. Since 2011, distracted drivers have gone up as much as 27%. Generally, we're seeing this number of crashes increasing at a rate of about 5% per year. In 2015, distracted driving accounted for more than 106,000 crashes in Texas. That means that one of every 5 crashes in our state was caused by a driver who wasn't paying attention. As you might expect, drivers who take their concentration and eyes off the road cause rear-end collisions, run red lights and stop signs, and hit fixed objects. Until we can convince drivers how dangerous it is to use their cell phones in their driving, this level of crash is likely to continue. It is an observation study conducted by the Texas Transportation Institute that Texas drivers are using a mobile communication device at any given moment during the daylight hours. That means that close to 1 in every 10 drivers is talking, texting, or online when sharing the road with us. The consequences are alarming. More than 3,000 people are seriously injured and 482 people died last year in crashes in Texas in which distracted driving was involved. These aren't just numbers. Those killed or badly hurt were moms, dads, teens, children, neighbors, and the co-workers. not just a number. Thousands of lives are permanently changed and upended. The real tragedy is that these crashes could have been prevented if drivers had only taken this seriously and given it a full attention. It's hard to put a price tag on the loss of individual and pain and suffering that comes with involving serious traffic crash. What we can qualify is the distracted driving crashes are costing individuals, insurance companies, and businesses a bundle. The average cost of an insurance claim to repair or replace the damaged vehicle is more than $3,300. Federal officials point out that when the employees is involved in an on-the-job crash, the average employer cost is $24,500 per crash. That cost rises to more than $150,000 if the crash results in an injury. And the overall economic impact to the state of Texas and the medical cost, property damage, and lost productivity associated with traffic crashes is estimated at $17 billion per year. Crash statistics help us understand who caused distracted driving crashes in Texas. The worst offenders are the young drivers under 35, and I know that for a fact. Your kids have it all the time. They can Google me and verify any statistic I have quickly, so you don't ever try to tell a story. But who was responsible for more than half these crashes involving were the under 35? This shouldn't come to surprise, since according to the national research firm, 90% of this group says that a smartphone never leaves their side. When we look even closer, we see that as the newest and least experienced drivers, those between 16 and 24 who caused nearly 1/3 of the total last year. But it's not just young drivers who are causing wrecks because they aren't paying attention. Middle-aged drivers between 35 and 55 accounted for 1 in every 4 distraction drivers involved. If there is a bright side, it's that the 55 plus, this group has responsible for 16,000 of the last year's total. This accounts for less than 15%. We are all excellent drivers. And are we all excellent drivers? That's the question. The majority of drivers' opinion surveys agree that phone distractions are a serious risk when driving, yet when TTI, Texas Transportation Institute, interviewed drivers at driver license offices in Texas last year, more than 20% admitted that regularly or sometimes text or email while driving. Too many of us are like Dustin Hoffman's character in the 1988 movie The Rain Man.
Promise you could drive? This is it.
At Walbrook, I drive slow on the driveway.
Charlie, this is okay. He can drive.
Of course, I'm an excellent driver.
It's very good to drive.
If we think of ourselves as excellent drivers, it's hard for us to see ourselves as just the opposite. We seldom describe ourselves as a dangerous driver, even when we're doing things that most other people would say are careless and risky. With young drivers, those causing about half the distracted crashes, here's one thing that we're up against. The NHTSA study found that up to 30% of drivers ages 21 through 34 say texting doesn't affect their driving at all. Many drivers of all ages in Texas are slow to come to the conclusion that texting behind the wheel should be off limits. However, 60% of the Texas drivers surveyed in Texas Transportation Institute last year gave us the clue that what to say to give them to stay off their phone or to the car while they in the car or the truck. They say that it's possible that they could hurt themselves or someone else. That is the biggest deterrent in using the cell phones as they're driving. We're all here today to talk about what we can do to reduce the number of distraction-related crashes, deaths, and injuries. We have to start by persuading drivers to put full attention behind the wheel. They have to believe using a cell phone when they're driving is so dangerous that it's not worth the risk. That means changing the minds of drivers who think they can safely multitask. For some, we know safety is the number one motivator. They don't want to take the chance of getting hurt or hurting someone else. For others, it's fear of getting a ticket that would make them put their phones down. State law in Texas bans the use of cell phones in school zones and makes it illegal for school bus drivers and drivers under the age of 18 to use them in their vehicles. More than 90 cities, including Austin, also have local ordinances that impose restrictions on cell phone use. Employers are considering weight too. We can help by establishing and enforcing company policies, which TxDOT has, that prohibit employees from using cell phones while driving on company business or in company vehicles. TxDOT is continuing to take proactive steps to reach drivers while messages that warn them of the dangers of cell phone use in their vehicles. Our annual Talk, Text, and Crash campaign began in 2011. We rely on TV and radio commercials, billboards, and digital signs, ads, and grassroots outreach to encourage drivers to focus on driving instead of talking or texting when they're behind the wheel. The news media has been terrific partners and help us spread our campaign with these messages. The good news is that we've seen a recent surge in awareness levels in the campaign. From 2014 to 2015, the number of drivers familiar with the campaign grew from 57% to 76%. Distracted driving isn't going to stop by itself. It's going to take all of us to find ways to reach drivers and convince them the importance of giving driving the full and undivided attention. There are a lot of smart people in this room today, and let's put our heads together and come up with the best ways to relay the facts and the dangers of cell phone use when they're driving and motivate drivers to avoid distractions that are putting all of us at risk. Thank you for being here today, and let's get to work.